transgender. This is America. Population 318 million. If all these little plastic people were the population, the total trans population would be this person. That's about 0.3% of the US population, and they're facing an uphill battle. A survey of nearly 6,500 transgender people in 2008 revealed the trans population was unemployed at twice the rate of the general population. Those rates are doubled for transgender people of color. Almost half, 47%, said that they were fired, not hired, or denied a promotion because of being transgender. And 90% said that they faced some form of discrimination just because of their gender identity. As a result of this, 71% hide their gender or gender transition. Discrimination doesn't stop at work either. Now let's talk about housing. Transgender people have less than half of the national rate of home ownership. 32% compared to the 67% of the general population that owns their own home. 19%, or nearly 1/5 of transgender people, have been homeless at some point. The housing situation is bad, but healthcare may be worse. Hormone therapy or certain surgeries to change physical characteristics are only covered by Medicaid in 7 states. And 19% of trans people had been denied healthcare based on their sexual identity. Because of all these problems, a lot of the trans community has turned to alcohol and drugs. They had 70% more drinking and drug problems to cope with mistreatment. And in terms of incarceration, trans people were 85% more likely to be imprisoned over people who hadn't lost their jobs due to bias. And then there's this. 41% of the transgender population in the US has attempted suicide, compared to just 4.6% of the general population. So think about that the next time you think gender identity is a choice.
Good morning, classmates, teachers, and members of the jury. My name is Amaya Álvarez. I'm from 2nd grade A, and today I'm going to talk about transgender people. What is a gender identity? What does it mean to be transgender? The difference between transgender and transsexual, the treatments that can be taken, and famous people that are transgender. Gender identity is defined as a personal conception of oneself as male or female, or rarely both or neither. This vision is related to the concept of gender role, which is defined as the outward manifestation of personality that reflects the gender identity. For example, if a person considers himself a male, then his gender identity will be male. However, his gender role is male only if he demonstrates typically male characteristics in dress, behavior, and basically characteristics of how society portrays male or female. Gender identity and sexual orientation are not related. Sexual orientation, according to the American Psychological Association, refers to an individual's enduring physical, romantic, and/or emotional attraction to another person. Transgender people may be straight, bisexual, homosexual, or asexual. Transgender people are those who have a gender identity different from their assigned sex. For example, some people could have born as a male, but they can feel like their body is not who they are in themselves. They can feel like their mind is a different gender, or neither gender, or both. Transgender is also an umbrella term that includes any individual who grows over or challenges their society's traditional gender roles, and/or expressions. In this umbrella term, we have intersex persons, drag queens, bigender person, etc. The difference between transgender and transsexual. Transgender is something more mental. It's the feeling of not being conformed with the biological sex, but without changing. Transsexuals are people who transition from one sex to another. That means that they were transgender at some point, but they did something to feel more comfortable with their body. Transitioning is the process of changing one gender's representation and/or sex characteristics to accord with one's internal sense of gender identity. First, we have the hormone replacement therapy. This therapy uses hormones as estrogen or testosterone, and it produces physical changes, but not completely. That means that changes like facial feature or some characteristics of the body will change. And then we have the sex reassignment surgery. That is the surgical procedure by which a transgender person's physical appearance and function of their existing sexual characteristics are altered to resemble that socially associated with their identified gender. Here we have an example of one Australian boy that took the hormone replacement therapy. Here is the picture before the treatment, after 13 months, after 18 months, 30 months, and finally 31 months. Transgender inequality is the unequal protection that transgender people receive in general. Currently, transgender individuals are not protected in 33 US states from being fired for being transgender. That means that someone that's transgender can be fired or denied for the job only for being transgender. One of the biggest reasons of why transgender people face transphobia is because of the lack of public understanding of transgender people. In this picture, we can see a report released by the National Center for Transgender Equality in 2011, where we can see how transgender people experience high levels of rejection jobs. Almost 30% did not get the job, denied a promotion, or fired just for being transgender. In this one, we can see how 78% has experienced harassment. And talking about rejection, we can see in the next picture the levels of family rejection after trans people came out or had a sex reassignment surgery. This survey made by the National Transgender Center for Equality that surveyed more than 6,000 of transgender in the US show us that between these people, 19% have attempted suicide, 57% were rejected by their own families, and 19% were refused medical care just for being transgender. Famous people that are transgender. Kylie Jenner was formerly known as Bruce Jenner, is an American television personality and retired Olympic gold medal winning decathlete. In April 2015, Jenner came out as a trans woman, saying that she had dealt with gender dysphoria since her youth. Jenner took hormone replacement therapy but stopped it until January of 2017, where she took a complete sex reassignment surgery. Next, we have Janet Mock. Is an American writer, TV host, transgender rights activist, and author of New York Times bestsellers. Janet took issue with how the magazine misgendered her by stating she was born and raised as a boy. And I quote, "I was born in what doctors proclaim is a boy body. I had no choice in the assignment of my sex at birth. My genital reconstructive surgery did not make me a girl. I was always a girl." Conclusion. As a conclusion, we can say that not all people were born in the right body, and that is completely normal if you feel that way. There are many organizations that help transgender people. There are many treatments that can help you to change your gender if you really want to. My sources are the surveys made by the National Center for Transgender Equality. Pages like Wikipedia or Los Angeles LGBT Center were a good source of the definition of being transgender, but only in the biological side. The real source are the testimonies that are in videos by transgender people that talk about the situation. What is it like? What inconveniences they have? And how they encourage people that don't accept themselves as they are. Transgender people at this moment is very discriminated. But that's just for the lack of information that people have of them, or even if they knew, they don't accept them. The only person that can change this reality is ourselves. We must know and understand what does it mean to be transgender, and they are not different than us just for being that. We are in the 21st century. Right now, people are fighting to make a better world, and that includes and embraces everybody, even if you're a transgender. Thank you for your attention.